Habits 365 Conscious Minds podcast.
What's up, everyone? We're back with the Conscious Minds podcast. I'm your host. For those of you who do not know, my name is Chris Holbert, and we are joined here with my co-host, founder and CEO of Habits 365, Eli Zaid. How you doing?
Hey guys, good to see you all again. I am Eli Zaid, the founder and CEO of Habits 365, and we are very happy to introduce a very special guest, Connor Price, who is a multifaceted artist all over social media. He's really taking off. It's awesome to have you, Connor. If you want to give the audience a brief introduction of who you are, kind of what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Connor Price. I grew up in a suburb just north of Toronto in Canada. When I was 6 years old, I started acting. That was sort of my entry into the entertainment world. When I was 10 years old, I did a movie called Cinderella Man where I played the son of Russell Crowe, and that was like definitely at that time easily the biggest project I was a part of. And then that led to me going out to LA for the first time, getting an agent, and then really kind of doing the acting thing. And I feel like the reason we're talking is probably because you guys know me for my music. So it wasn't until about 2018, so quite recently, that I decided to put out my first EP for music. And with acting, there's so much downtime. It's whether you're in between scenes or in between seasons, there's so much of nothing happening. And music was sort of always my creative outlet on the side that I really just did as a hobby. And so in 2018, I was like, why not just take this a bit more serious and actually put out a project? So put out my first EP. It did well. One of the songs got radio play in Toronto, which was really cool. A lot of artists started reaching out to me, wanted to collaborate, producers, and then it just kind of kept going. And then, over this last year or year and a half with COVID, it was like all acting slowed down, like everything stopped. So I was like, all right, maybe this is my sign to go all in on music. And a lot of crazy stuff happened. Started my TikTok like 4 months ago, about to hit 500,000 followers, which is crazy. A few little
milestone.
Yeah, I know. And I couldn't kind of believe how much organic reach there is on TikTok. A lot of cool artists reaching out to me. Did a song with Idris Elba at the start of the year, which was wild.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, now here we are. So I'm curious, what was like the piece of content that you guys first saw that put me on your radar?
So I actually, Chris,
you got it.
So the one that I definitely liked the most was the Over the Top remix. That had me. I was like, wow,
sweet.
That was really legit. I love that. And then I sort of from there I looked at some of your older work, and I really like that as well. Both on Instagram and TikTok, because obviously Habits is on both those platforms. So
right.
I was able to find you, and I was like, yeah, I really want to speak to this guy because we want to work with you. We want to really see what you're about, because you definitely represent our message of really going all in, practicing really positive habits to better your career and to make you better overall in everything you do. So but the Over the Top remix, that was cool. That was definitely.
What was that with, the Over the Top remix?
I'm sorry?
What one was the Over the Top remix with? I don't know if I saw that video.
Yeah, so the Over the Top remix, so Drake, which I'm like a huge fan of.
That's the one, yep.
Yeah, okay. So he put out a song recently. There's this artist named Smiley, who's this like up and coming artist from Toronto, and Drake recently signed him to OVO. Like, gosh, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so they put out the song Over the Top. And I loved what Drake did. I loved the beat, and I was like, all right, I would love to know what I would sound like on this song. And so I downloaded the instrumental. And there's certain parts where I kept Drake's vocals in. So at certain times, it sort of sounds like, he says 2 lines, I say 2 lines. So we're like rapping back and forth. Yeah. And I made like a little skit out of it, like on TikTok, where it's like, I'm Drake's producer. And then I walk in the room and I'm like, hey, can I rap on this? So I kind of did that kind of skit. And I wasn't expecting it to go so crazy. But yeah, at the moment, like I posted it, I think 4 or 5 days ago. It's at like 2.5 million views.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I posted the entire thing on my YouTube, but yeah, no, it got a great response, and here we are talking. So I guess something good came out of it. So
right. Also, the Home song you did, I really liked that as well. I forgot to even mention.
Wow,
that.
It's funny you mention that, because I actually that original song Home, I forget the name of the original group. I should know this. It's like a really long name. But yeah, they have this famous song called Home, and I was like, wow, it'd be really cool if we sampled the chorus and then I rapped about my home.
Yeah.
And that was a piece of content I put out. And it actually, because it's funny you bring this up, about 2 days ago, my manager called because we've been trying to get the sample clearance for that because I want to put it out like on streaming. But at the moment, because I'm using like the original song, I wouldn't be able to put it out. But I guess they heard it, they liked it, and so they gave us the clearance to like use it. So
Yes.
Wow.
yeah, over the next few weeks,
That's
I'll
sick.
actually be putting out like an official version of Home. So yeah, thank you for giving me
Yeah.
an excuse to talk about
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and your flow went crazy on the Over the Top remix. Like
Thank you,
the
man.
back and forth with you and Drake, like how you kind of, it was just so clean. Like I
Cool.
was
No,
like
I
really
appreciate
impressed.
that.
I'm like, he's not just this guy on TikTok just making these videos. Like he's got actual flow. He
Cool.
knows how to implement himself in a
Actual
song the right
talent. Right.
way.
Right.
Thank you. No,
Like actual talent. So like it's sick to see you doing the things you are now for sure.
I appreciate you saying that. When I first started on TikTok, I found one way to like grow really quickly was sort of doing, I'm going to call it like gimmick rap, like sort of gimmicky rapping, like a lot of the fast rapping, for example, like doing the Eminem Godzilla challenge, or, just these things that are kind of gimmicky. And I was getting tired of doing those. And so for
Yeah.
this Drake one, I kind of just slowed it down. I did kind of, what Drake would do. And I didn't really do anything super lyrical or super fast. So I really wasn't expecting this to get so much positive attention, but I guess people really seem to like it
Yeah.
so that made me happy because I kind of got to do the music that I liked to do and people responded to it. So that was
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
We'll continue to do that. And like along with that, I mean like you have to just do this constantly day in, day out. It just doesn't like come natural. Like it probably is somewhat natural, but like this is something you practice all the time. And
Yeah.
like whatever goes on like within your own head or whatever you do like physically, there's gonna be results.
Yeah.
So one of my main questions is like obviously Habits 365, we're a brand that represents just a positive message, creating daily habits that is gonna ultimately help you become the person you want to become.
Mhm.
So what kind of habits have you kind of developed that helped you get to the place you are today?
Yeah, it's a good question because that's something I'm like very aware of as of recent is how important habits are.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to like form them, and certain habits work and some don't work. And I feel like I'm still in the process of figuring out what the perfect daily routine is like for me. First and foremost, I find that I'm definitely a morning person. I like getting up early. Like
Yeah.
I'm up anywhere between like 6 and 7, depending on what time I go to sleep. Cause I like getting anywhere from 6 to 7 hours of sleep.
Mhm.
So,
Same
and
here.
yeah, and I find working out first thing is great. Like it sort of, gets the day going. I feel accomplished that I did something.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just just having that routine, it just feels nice, and I can come home and get ready to start my day between 8 and 9 and have already had a great sleep and a great workout. Like you just feel good,
Mhm.
right? And so much of making music and being creative is like you have to feel confident, you have to feel inspired, and so if I'm like, out drinking or sleeping in too late, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is record. So
Yeah,
I
you just start
find
feeling
like,
drowsy.
You have
yeah,
to have a
exactly. And so I find just getting a good night's sleep and like working out first thing in the morning is like the best thing for me to start my day. Um, so yeah, as far as other habits, man, it's like for this music thing, I really try to record something every day. There was a time I stopped doing this, but there was like 2 weeks straight where I would do this like 45-minute challenge where I'd set my alarm on my phone for 45 minutes and I just see what I could write, whether it was one verse, two verses, half a verse, maybe nothing. Like maybe in those 45 minutes, I'd come up with nothing, and that's
You
okay.
sometimes get that mental block.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times those 45 minutes would spark an idea that would turn into a song, and it became very helpful. And so I just found every day, even if I didn't feel inspired, almost treating it like a job. Like this is what I need to do. Because I also find there's this quote, I forget who said it, but it's like inspiration finds you working. A lot of times people think like, oh no, like the inspiration will just come and then I'll work. It's like, no, you got to put the work in first. And as you kind of force yourself to sit down and write, then the inspiration kicks in, sparks an
Yeah.
idea. Next thing you know, 10 minutes later, you're like writing a song. You're like, oh, this is great. So yeah,
Yep.
I've found the most important habit is even on days when I'm not feeling it, give myself the opportunity to fail, because, if I fail,
Yeah.
at least I figured out something that didn't work. And if I
That's
don't
all you
fail,
learn
that
from
means I'm writing
failures.
something I
Right.
like. So yeah, it's a win-win.
Mhm.
So really
Yeah.
every day it's just like, let's try to do something.
Yeah. Failure is what ultimately makes you better
Oh
in
yeah,
every aspect of
100%.
life.
And it's like,
You can't
because
win without losses.
yeah, and even just like to get specific about writing music, there's so many times when I write a verse that I don't like and I won't use it, but there'll be one line in there that I really like. And then I'll use
Take
that as
that
like the
and
intro
work.
line to a different verse. And then that
Yeah.
sparks a whole new idea. So
Yeah.
even in
It's
those failures,
constant.
I can
Yeah.
find something. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
When do
Definitely.
you find like yourself like being the most creative? Like do you have a specific time of the day you do this?
Wow, good question. I haven't really thought about that. Um, Yeah, no, I haven't really considered a certain time of day to be most creative, but maybe there is, and I just haven't realized it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's you just gotta experiment. Apparently,
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
maybe the more you.
I definitely work more during like the mornings and afternoons. I think I like when there's like light in the room rather than kind of being in a dark little studio space. I
Yeah.
definitely like things feeling open, and I like
Mhm.
candles. Like I like things to feel alive, and so yeah,
It's nice when
Yeah,
probably
you
like during
blend kind of,
the
yeah.
day. Yeah.
and I know like Janae Aiko, like when she made her album, she like went to Hawaii. She secluded herself from like so many people, and she created an album out of that.
Definitely heard so many stories of artists who kind of escape to a place where they can feel disconnected. Even some people I know, and that's another thing I do is when I'm recording, I don't turn my phone off, but I put it on sleep so that if I'm in the middle of an important thought
You're
and a
into
call
the
comes
zone,
in, that's
right?
not going to distract you, and then you lose your thought, and
Mhm.
you're like, and you get frustrated, and you don't want to
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah,
So I definitely understand the whole idea of like secluding yourself somewhere, whether that's Hawaii. That would be nice, right? Like, that'd be
Yeah.
like
No,
eventually, right?
yeah,
Hey, once
exactly.
you make
That's the goal. Hey, let's go to Paris and write an album. Yeah, exactly.
it.
So,
No, honestly,
Connor, so with kind of your music career starting pretty recently,
Hmm.
as we talked about, like has there been one thing that happened to make you want to start music, or was it kind of a slew of events?
Yeah,
Like
actually.
it wasn't. Yeah.
So let's see. Back in, because I've always been a fan of hip hop. Like my love for hip hop started when I was really young, probably like Marshall Mathers LP, like that kind of
Yeah.
time, listening to Eminem. I have this vivid memory of being at a friend's house and his older brother had that Eminem CD. We were too
Mhm.
young to listen to it, so we would like sneak around with it and listen to it
Right.
when our parents were home. And I just loved, his the way he used his words and his storytelling on
Mhm.
songs like Stan, and I loved what he
oh
did.
Stan.
And then as I got older, I really loved Lupe Fiasco and MF Doom, and
Mhm.
I shared a room with my older brother for my whole childhood, and he listened to a lot of hip hop. And because I'm just
Mhm.
like sharing a room with him, it was
Right.
always in the
You
room.
kind of became
Yeah, I
routine.
always heard it.
Mhm.
So that's where my love for hip hop started. And then I was doing the acting thing for my whole life. Like I said, ever since I was about 6 years old. And so I never really felt the need to like pursue music as a career. It was always just something like I would freestyle in the car with friends for fun. We just make fun songs. We didn't
Of
post it
course.
anywhere. Um,
Definitely.
and then there was like a moment in high school when Odd Future was like going crazy, like Tyler the Creator and Earl Sweatshirt. And I'm looking at all these like young dudes who are my age, who I can like relate to, who are
Mhm.
making like real moves in music. And I'm looking at them and I'm sort of like, oh, okay, maybe I do want to try this. Like maybe this
Mhm.
doesn't seem too crazy. Um, and so the first thing that I did was I started entering YouTube rap contests anonymously. So I
Yeah.
would like record verses and enter myself and use a fake name, and I wouldn't tell anyone I was doing it because I
Oh, that's
also
dope.
yeah, because I also felt like growing up as not only just as like the white kid, but as the actor, it was like if I were to all of a sudden be like, "Hey, I'm rapping now," like everyone would roll their eyes.
Mhm.
Which also is a whole nother conversation I think we should touch on, which is like not caring what anyone thinks, because
Yeah.
I really think that's so important. And that's one of the regrets I
Seriously.
have is not starting music sooner. And the reason I
Mhm.
didn't was because I was worried about what my family would say, what my friends would say. And now I'm
Mhm.
just like, I wish I could tell my younger self, like, yo, go for it. Like, who cares? Because no matter what, people are going to talk.
People are
Um,
always gonna, and
Always.
when people start hating more,
it means
that's
you're
when you
doing
know
something
you're
right.
doing something right.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, exactly.
So
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah. And so yeah, so I would enter these contests on YouTube anonymously, and I won a few of them. So that was really the moment that
boosted
gave
your
me,
self esteem.
yeah, it was that confidence, like, okay, I can do this. People like this. All right, maybe I should take this more serious. And then yeah, I was just kind of working on stuff, and then in 2018, I was like, all right, I think this is the time, and I put out a 4-song EP, and ever since then, just putting out consistent singles. Haven't dropped an album yet, but working on consistent singles, getting that momentum, getting the fan
Mhm.
base, growing social media, TikTok.
Right.
Trying to use as many tools as I can to get as
Yeah.
much eyes and ears on my music, and then once I have that kind of larger fan base where people are really wanting to consume a whole project, then I'll drop that album. So that's sort of the
And that's a
space I'm in
smart
right
way
now.
to do it. Like to
Yeah.
do it not only smartly but patiently as well. Like you
Yeah.
want to be patient. Like if you're gaining momentum, you want to slowly drop stuff. You don't want to just drop a song today, a song in a week, and that's nonsense. Like you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some artists like there's are you familiar with the hip hop artist Russ?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of
So yeah,
course.
so
Yeah.
I love
Russ.
his book, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Have you
his
read
book
his
is great.
book?
I have.
So good.
Yeah, very good. But I'm definitely inspired by his like interviews, like the way he
Mhm.
talks about music and creatives and um
Yeah, he's super dope.
yeah. And I love the way he handles himself creatively and on the business side, really. Just being independent and,
Mhm.
his whole brand and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
he's
the
super
way he
engaged.
popped off at first was on SoundCloud. He would put out a brand new song every week, which I think was so smart because people's attention span for new artists, especially, is
It's so
so
true.
small.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because and I remember in an interview he was like, I would put out all these albums. The first song would have a bunch of streams, and then the rest would drop off. So he's
Yeah.
like, all right, clearly people have time to hear one song. So he's like, I'm just going to drop one song every week, and
Yeah.
it
And
consistently
that's
would
if
grow and
he
grow and
sees
grow.
results from that, then keep doing it. Right.
Right. And then when the fan base was
Fantastic.
there and that moment was right, he dropped his debut album and it went
Mhm.
crazy. And so I'm definitely inspired by that sort of mindset of, okay, let me
Hmm.
put consistent singles out. I'm not doing every week. I'm sort of averaging every 2 weeks because
Hmm.
I also want to do a music video because I find it's easier to promo a song when I have a visual rather than just like
All right.
the artwork. So yeah, my mindset is just like, yeah, consistent singles with a video. Interacting with fans is so important. Responding to every comment. People who share it, I go to, I directly message them. I'm like, hey, thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Interaction, fan
oh, it's
interaction
so
is
important.
that. There's nothing more important than
When
that.
you're an entertainer, you have to give back to the people that are
100%.
listening in on what you're doing
A
because without them,
consumer, right?
what you're doing doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That fan interaction is so important. It really helps. I find now a lot of people I've interacted with are now just wanting me to win more. Like they feel like
Yeah.
they're friends with me. And now when I drop songs, they're like, all right, let's get this one more streams
And
than
then
the
they
last one.
share
And
it with their friends, and then it
yeah,
just really
creates that
takes
nice
off from there.
community.
Yeah.
Totally.
Hmm.
And that's another reason I mentioned sort of prior to starting this podcast was I wanted to start like a Twitch stream because I think that's
Yeah.
another cool way. I find when I go live on TikTok and I interact with people and tell them what I'm doing, or I have a song I'm working on and I play the verse, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And just like having that interaction when I'm
Yeah.
live, I found is also really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's big like how you market yourself too. Like you don't want to like compete with people head on that are already a step above you. You want to diversify yourself and kind of find a way where people are going to track to you because you're being a unique version of yourself and not trying to be someone else.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. Well said.
Hmm.
You know, so like I've seen like I mean, I just actually saw that quote actually. I think it was who was it? Steve Jobs actually. That's what he said about like any competing company. If you're a company, you don't want to be like trying to go head on with another company and try to be as similar as possible. You want to create your brand and your product as
Yeah,
diverse as
Make it
possible and
diverse. Yeah.
kind of go in with a different way
right.
of doing things that'll attract that type of audience because people
Yeah,
love authenticity.
yeah.
Mhm.
Authenticity is everything. And that's sort of the space I'm in now is trying to figure out rather than oh, like, okay, I like Drake's music. I like rapping in the style of Drake, but then it's like, okay, now I'm competing with the biggest artists in the world. It's like what
Yeah.
makes me me? How can I stand out from everyone
You to
else?
be yourself. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's sort of the space I'm
You
in
can
of trying to
use
figure
them
it
as
out.
this inspiration, of course, for
Totally.
anything. But
Yeah,
yeah, I totally
yeah.
agree with you. Yeah.
And so I'm sort of still carving out yeah, what my lane is because I like rapping in the style of Drake. I like doing more love songs. I just put out like an acoustic song where it's just grand piano and me rapping, and so I'm sort of figuring out what I am, but
That's great.
maybe that is what I am. Maybe what I am is
It is.
just like
Yeah.
doing a bunch of different things and being versatile, kind of like
Mhm.
Russ. He puts out an R&B song, he puts out a rap song.
Yeah.
He raps super lyrical on that one EP, Chomp, and then he does more like pop kind of stuff. So
Yep.
I definitely like the idea of being versatile and kind of jumping on. That's why I did that Drake thing where like he would rap, then I would rap because it was like I want to prove that I can like hold my own with these artists, like
Yeah.
no matter who it is. Like I kind of like that
Uh-huh.
competition, right? So
Yeah.
try to
Yeah,
do it
it's
all.
all about branding yourself and making sure that you're doing what you think is going to help you succeed the most. You
Totally.
know, like he's not like my favorite artist, but Lil Dicky is like one of those people that he's created his image and people know him because he's so out there. You
Yeah.
know, like he has great songs and his flow is crazy and like he talks about it on Dave all the time. Like that's
Yeah.
actually a really cool show I
Great,
watch.
great
I
show.
don't know
I
if
actually
you guys
just
see
watched the most recent one last night. Yeah.
it. It's a funny show, yo, but
It's
like
great.
it's cool seeing like his creative mind kind of at work and like I don't know if like the whole Dave show is a perfect representation of how he actually got to the place he is today, but it's
Yeah.
just cool to see like how he's marketing himself and diversifying himself from everyone else to make him known as that person and not blending in with the rest.
Right.
I
Totally.
think that's like the most important thing for artists, especially, is making yourself known in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you can be as versatile as possible, but if you're just doing what everyone else is doing,
Hmm.
you're not gonna make yourself known.
Totally.
So I think that's definitely a big thing that you've been doing, especially with your TikTok,
Oh,
is
thank
you've
you.
been hitting on different facets and doing the things that you want to do, and you're showing yourself the way you want to show yourself, and people
Yeah.
automatically gravitate towards that.
Hmm.
Yeah, awesome. No, I appreciate you saying that. Also, I think being independent has been really cool, just because there's so much more control that I have over what I put out, when I
Yeah.
put it out, and I also think people, honestly, especially in hip hop, like really want to root for that because there's so much artists that kind of come out of nowhere with these huge labels behind them, and they have these fancy videos, and there's something that you feel like is lacking
It's not
that
as
authenticity.
organic. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I'm not saying it's bad to be a
no
solo artist and sign
no
with OVO, but it's not when you're independent. It's more like it's just more
It's
authentic.
freeing.
You're
Yeah, you're,
really showing your true self, doing what you want to do. You're not just doing what the label tells you to do.
yeah,
sure
you have
yeah.
creative control.
Totally. And that's really important to me. I've also found what's been interesting watching how my content performs on TikTok is there'll be so many times when I'll record this like super fancy video. I'll use my like Sony A7S and I'll make it look really fancy and I'll edit it
Mm.
and I'll put it out there and it doesn't perform well. And I'm like, okay, let me try to do the same thing, but I'll just shoot it with my iPhone. I'll do selfie mode. I'll just be holding the microphone and make it look really, I don't know, not amateur, but just like I'm trying less. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden the same piece of content all of a like gets way more traction. And it's
I
like,
was I
wow.
was I was gonna say that definitely happened
Yeah,
because
and I think
yeah,
people just respond to like people,
authenticity.
yeah, just being themselves in their like you can just tell it's like, he just thought of that. He filmed himself in his room. I like this.
You
I
don't want to be
relate.
trying too hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
And so it's cool to see that people really do respond to stuff that just feels like they did it in the moment with what the tools they had. I don't care that the lighting isn't perfect or that the sound quality isn't perfect. They like the story, they like the person, and that's all that matters at the end of the
yeah,
day.
totally.
have you ever like gone on to like a beat and you just knew what the lyrics were going to be right then and there? Or are you more so the guy that just like listens and writes down the lyrics and then just finds what you want to have on the song to be?
Yeah, my process has kind of changed. I feel like when I first started rapping, it was definitely the second one you said, where it was like I would really think about the theme of the song first and what I wanted to rap about, and I'd have like verses written out, and then I'd find the instrumental and then try to see what works. Now it's the opposite. It's like I have producers send me stuff, and I'll listen to the music, and I'll like my process is I'll if I like an instrumental, I'll put it in my Logic file. I'll play it and I'll immediately hit record and I'll just record myself rapping gibberish. I'm like trying to find flow patterns, melodies,
Yep.
words, and I'm saying nothing. I'm just like, all right, what's the tone? What's the speed? Is this fast? Is this slow? And I just record all of that, like my first instincts. And then
Yeah, it's almost like the lyrics are like found within the beat. It's
yeah,
not the opposite.
totally. And then I play it back and then I sort of see what jumps out at me. Like, okay, that flow pattern was cool. Okay, that melody's cool. Let's maybe use that for the chorus. And then I sort of use that to structure the song. I figure out what works and then I fill in, I connect the dots with actual words. So it's like the feeling, the flow pattern, the melodies come first. And then it's like, okay, now what words can I put in here? Okay, great. That's a good concept. Now let's grow with that. So it's definitely now letting the music influence whatever comes out of me. And then from there, figuring out, okay, how can I now actually make this make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like dancing too. I feel like
Mm,
it's like hand in hand with dancing and like creating lyrics. Because like
that's
you
cool. I like
find the
that.
kind of dance within the beat that you're listening to, and you just the less you think about what you're doing, the
Yeah.
easier and more creative you become. You just let
Yeah.
it come to you. It's like a download, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because it's like acting as well. I found is like my first instincts when I read a script is usually what I end up going with, and so it's really
Huh.
important to like trust like what did the song make me feel in that moment. Okay, let's express that, and that's why I just like I always record my first take, and a lot of times like 90% of it is just awful, but there's that 10% where it's like yes, that let's
That's the goal
let's
right
grow, yeah, let's figure out, let's use that as the foundation, and then grow from there. Yeah.
there. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yo, so who is that one artist? Like I don't know if I know the answer yet, but
Mhm.
I have a clue. Who's the one artist you would love to work with if you had the choice?
Gosh, there's a lot. I know obviously, yeah, Drake is at the top of that list, but there is one other
Who
person who
doesn't?
who we haven't talked about who I'm like a massive fan of, which is Donald Glover, also known as Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
Who, yeah, because being somebody who like started off in acting, and I mean, I still do the acting, but I'm also doing the music, and I'd love at one point to like, direct and write a script and kind of go down that lane. Watching someone like Donald Glover, who wrote for Dirty Rock and then was acting on Community and then had his own stand up. And then, of course, with Childish Gambino, had these like amazing albums. He does so much at such a high level. And that's so inspiring to me because that's like something that I would love to be known for, is being multifaceted. And also just in his music, like he'll do some crazy rapping and then turn around and make like Redbone, which is like an amazing R&B, like kind of pop song. And I'm very inspired by his versatility and the way he works. And so even if we don't make a song, just to like get in a room with him and talk to him would be
Just do
crazy,
something
because
with him, yeah.
I'm just a huge fan of him all
Yeah,
around.
it's possible.
Yeah, hey man, anything's possible. Like going back to how I said I had a song with Idris Elba at the start of the year. So we put out a song called Courtney Cox. And I referenced Courtney Cox, the actress from Friends, in the
Yeah.
chorus.
Mhm.
And at one point he said to me when the song was done, he's like, "Hey, if we ever do a video for this, we should try to get Courtney Cox." And I thought he was joking, so I sort of laughed it off. I don't know. I don't know if you guys are aware of the song or the video, but after we're done, you should definitely go watch it. But
Yeah.
it turns out Idris's publicist knew her publicist. She heard the song, she liked it, and she made a cameo in our music video, which is
No
insane.
way.
Yeah. So like just saying what you said about anything is possible, it really is. Because if you would have told me at the start of last year, like, hey, you're gonna get a song with Idris Elba and then Courtney Cox is gonna be in the video, like I would have said no effing way. But yeah, it happens. Sometimes you got to just shoot your shot, and
Yeah,
the
for real.
stars align. If you're really like, every day putting something out, for every 100 times something doesn't happen, that one time something might, and that's all it takes, right? So
And
Yeah,
also,
you're always like 3 to 5 people away from connecting to that person you need.
totally.
yeah,
Like, that's just how connected everything is. It's
That's
like
what's so
crazy to
great
think
about making music in this time. Like I think about times like guys like Jay-Z, who grew up, not grew up, but were doing music at a time when there was no internet. Like you had to go out to the shows, you had to hand out your CDs to people, and like the idea of doing that terrifies me. I feel so lucky that we have the internet, that I have
Mhm.
apps like TikTok where I can
Oh yeah,
quickly make a remix to a Drake song, record it here in my room. I don't need anyone else. I set up my phone on a little tripod. Like I did all that on my own, put it on the
Mhm.
internet. 5 days later, 2.5 million people have seen it. Like that is
Yeah.
wild. And
that's
I feel
wild.
so lucky that I live in a time where I can do that. Because the
Oh
internet,
yeah,
the internet has, man, it's
It's
created
crazy.
so many
connected us more
careers.
than anything ever in
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree.
Yo, here's like a kind of a deep question.
Sure.
Why do you think we kind of evolved to have music be incorporated with our evolution? Like, why did we choose to go down this creative path that we found little sounds that just
Mm.
sounded very good together, and then we kind of just evolved to have that be accustomed to part of our culture, like
It's
just every human in history,
it's so funny you say that, because I was just having this kind of train of thought last night. Because okay, so my sister-in-law just had her second kid. So I'm an uncle for the second time. And I was just
Congrats.
thinking about the idea
Congrats.
of like, why do mothers naturally feel like they need to sing to kids to soothe them? And why does it work? Right? Like that's
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
right.
yeah.
Why is it that musicality and maybe it's rhythm, like rhythm is definitely calming. Um, Melody is like
The
addictive, and
harmony, some of the pitches, and how it kind of like the waveforms, the wavelengths of
totally.
the,
There's
you
clearly
know.
something instinctual, because it works with such like young kids, like infants, that music calms them down. So there's something in our DNA that attaches us to rhythm and melody. I don't know. I'm sure there's science behind it, where
Yeah,
they like
Someone
study
knows it.
brain scans of people when they listen to music. Like it clearly ignites something. But yeah, it's a great question,
because
because
it's very like orderly. I mean, like you can tell the difference between like a kind of a chaotic beat and something that like sounds good together. Whatever, if it's like
right.
the chords, the pitches, the tones of whatever the vibration is,
Yeah.
when it matches up and lines up and creates that harmony, there's
Yeah.
something so soothing about it.
Totally.
And it's like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like birds kind of feel the same way. I don't
There you
know.
go.
Like
That's another one.
they're singing all the
They have
time.
their
I
That's
don't
own
know what
that's
thing,
it's
another
yeah.
great point. It's just like natural music, like animals. Like why do they sing? It's a great question. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's clearly like in our DNA that we naturally are attracted to
He elevates music.
rhythms and melody. Yeah. And yeah, it's a
harmony.
great
Honestly,
question.
harmony. I feel like we're supposed to be harmonized. Like everything is so connected in some harmonious way that the more harmony there is, it creates that kind of sense of connectivity.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's what music kind of brings out.
totally.
Which
Definitely.
I think
No,
it's
it's
just
great.
wild. It's really crazy
It
to think
is,
about
yeah.
why that all that happens.
And also
Yeah.
the way
It
music
takes a
can
while to think about that kind of stuff. Definitely.
right. I also think it's interesting the way music taps into different emotions, like how, you know,
Mm,
there's chords that make people sad. There's chords that make people feel happy. There's
Yeah, it's
chords
kind of
that
crazy.
if something is played wrong, you naturally know it's off key, and it makes you cringe. It's like
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
instinctively in tune to your emotions and music. It's amazing. It really is
yeah, and then
amazing.
you'll hear a song and it takes you back to an exact
Ah,
memory
yeah. Oh,
of the time
totally.
you heard it.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's like such a crazy thing, like
Wild.
totally.
the
Yeah.
emotion of it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
when music is attached to a memory or a moment, yeah, that's amazing. I feel like that's a big reason why I love Drake so much is I just know like there's certain albums that just take me back to the first time I heard like Take Care and the car, you know, the friend's car I was sitting in a certain parking lot. Like I can picture all of that. And that's such a cool thing. And that's like one of the coolest things now to know is when people send me videos of them like listening to my music and just knowing that there's a chance that one of my songs might be a time stamp for them for some like memory
Yeah,
is so cool. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
yeah.
hope that happens for someone and that my
It
music
definitely will.
means
Yeah.
more than just the moment. It's like something
Hmm.
they could hear in 10 years. That's so cool to think about.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
literally though, it's wild.
it
But
is
yo,
wild.
Connor, thank you so much for like coming on to this. I mean,
Of
it's
course,
been an honor to have you and like get to know you and stuff. I mean,
you guys
hopefully
too.
like your
That was
career keeps taking off and like
great.
everything you're doing works out
Thank
because
you.
I can just see a lot of potential that you have
Oh, I
that could
appreciate that.
definitely turn into something that you envision yourself to be at. So
Well, thank
definitely
you.
keep going with that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the plan. Really, is just kind of that's what's been so great about TikTok is I treat TikTok very differently from my other platforms in the sense of I just upload everything like something that that I'm really happy with. I put out something that I'm maybe not crazy about, but I'm curious. I put out. So I'm really treating TikTok as just like experimental, just like throwing
Yeah.
everything out
It's
there,
all experience too.
seeing what people like, and then being like, okay, people like this, people like that. Let's now do like elevate those things and do more of it. And so yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It was great to meet you guys, and I'm excited to see kind of where this all takes me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys can find Connor any with two N's, not one
Yes.
N, two N's, at just Connor Price underscore. Those are all of his social medias, TikTok, Instagram, etc. Connor, if you want to add any that I missed.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
yeah, on as far as like music streaming, you can just type my name. My music name is my real name, Connor Price, Connor. Yeah, on all social media, it's underscore. On TikTok, I had to do 2 underscores because the one underscore was taken. So
Oh
I
man, I'll
apologize
say
for all the
this.
underscores. I really my goal is to get to a point where I can just like when you're famous enough and you can just take whatever handle you want. It's just like
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd love
you
to just
just
have at
get rid
Connor
of the
Price.
underscore.
Yeah, keep it simple,
Yeah,
but
we
yes.
still have our
we
underscore
pay for
on
it.
our Instagram, unfortunately,
Well,
and
there you go.
so we're on the same page.
Exactly. But yeah, no, that's about it.
Yeah, no, but yeah, again, I'm your co-host Eli Zide, joined by my main host Chris Holbert, and yeah,
Cool.
we hope to see you guys next time. And thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
See you guys.